Well, a UN meeting on climate change is underway in the heart of Poland's coal mining region. Delegates from more than 200 countries right now negotiating concerns over reports of an increase in greenhouse gas emissions. But while expectations are low, the meeting is considered the most important since the landmark 2015 Paris Agreement. Our Nahlah Ayed joins us now from Katowice, Poland, with more on this. So, Nahlah, I hear the UN Secretary General said today he's planning another separate summer next year. What's that one about?
Well, as we've heard several times at this meeting here, climate change is proceeding at a much faster pace than people believed back at the Paris summit in 2015. In addition, the targets that they agreed to back then are not good enough, that's what scientists are saying, to actually limit global warming the way they had hoped to back in Paris. And further, it turns out that the majority of the countries who had signed on have actually failed to stay on track to reach those targets that they had actually agreed to individually. So the summit next September that Antonio Guterres announced or mentioned today is aimed at trying to raise the ambition of everybody who signed on to the Paris Agreement. So the idea is that he wants countries to take the next year to reconsider their targets and to return not only in a year's time and not only to say they will meet the targets that they had agreed to 3 years ago, but to try to dramatically exceed them, Michael.
And what about Canada's commitments? What are they and are they being achieved?
Well, Canada's Paris commitment was to, by 2030, drop the level of greenhouse emissions by 30% of 2005 levels. It's a bit complicated, but that is the commitment. And Canada is one of those countries, according to the UN, that is not on track to reach its own target by the time that it had set for itself. Now, we had an interview with the Environment Minister, Catherine McKenna. She insists that despite the UN's findings, that Canada is still committed to those targets. Here's a little bit of what she had to say.
Well, look, I mean, it is a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge for every single country. But you got to take serious action. And that's what we're doing across the board. I mean, when you look at the oil and gas sector, we have a target of reducing emissions, methane emissions, by 40%. First country in the world. We're trying to get other countries to step up. But as I say, this is a transition, and it isn't all going to happen overnight. We are a natural resource-based economy, and we need to make sure we have policies in place. But key policies like putting a price on pollution will have the impact of reducing emissions.
Now, the minister isn't actually here at the moment, but she will be here next week, and she'll be addressing the conference to explain how exactly Canada plans to keep those commitments.
Okay, Nahlah, thank you for that. That's Nahlah Ayed in Katowice, Poland.